Welcome back to Small Engines Galore. On this episode, we are fixing up these two lawn tractors. We have a Ford R12 unit and an MTD Yardworks unit. Let's get into what these things are and what's wrong with these things. Okay, so here's the deal. Some guy on Kijiji messaged me asking if I was interested in this and this for $250 delivered to my house, which is way too cheap because this one apparently runs. This one here is a Ford R12, which means 12 horse Briggs in it. Flathead single cylinder. Under the seat, we have a Peerless 5-speed, basically like a Peerless 700 if it isn't a Peerless 700. Sorry, I'm sick today, guys. I'm not talking like usual because I have something going on. But we're still going to be working on these things because why not? This one has the shifter pattern and everything on here. This is a really cool unit, I think. Everything about it is pretty good. It's got a 30-inch deck, so tiny, but whatever. The steering turns really tight, and there's no play in it, basically. Like, that's the extent of our play. So I think this guy is pretty good. I think we're going to start on this one to try get running. But, yeah, this guy runs a Peerless transaxle or transmission to a chain drive rear axle, which we're going to get into later. But also we have this Yardworks unit. This thing is your basic run-of-the-mill MTD 15.5 horse 42-inch deck FNR transaxle, probably the cheapest built mower that you can get recently, I guess. So like when I said a FNR, it's like forward, neutral, reverse. So we're forward, and we have the variable drive unit right here with 6 forward gears, which are actually just belt tension speeds, which is cool, but whatever. Like, it's just the run-of-the-mill MTD. Anyways, this thing has a 42-inch deck with a couple issues of rust on it, but we'll get into that later. And a really heavy hood. And a 15.5 Tecumseh under the hood. Apparently this one has new starter, a new carburetor, a new coil, and a couple other new things I forget now. But it does not run. So this one's going to be more difficult, I think, to get running than this one, because this one apparently you can just fire it up and run and drive. So I think we're going to start on this Ford one. We're just going to try giving it a boost because neither one of these have batteries in them. And we have a big boost battery, and we'll see what happens. Alright guys, I got some boost cables hooked up to the battery cables, hooked to our big Everlast boost battery. I've never tried starting this thing, so we'll see here. The key switch is right here on the dash. Right here, so we can go off, on, which is covered, and then there's start. So we're going to hit start, and let's hear this thing run. Oh. Okay. Sounds like starter is spinning. Let's see. Starter on this guy is down in here. Okay, so I guess we are doing some starter work on this thing because the gear does not seem to want to come up on the shaft. I'm just gonna stick you guys watching that starter while I try cranking this thing over to see, is the shaft spinning inside the gear or what's happening here? Because there is a possibility that there's some water on there that is frozen somehow around the gear and frozen it to the shaft, I guess. But I think there's actually might be something broken in here. Also, you guys are going to ask, why don't you just pull start it? Well, there is this pull start cover, but there's no rewind handle and no pull start assembly inside. Just the shaft. We don't have the pulley or nothing for inside of here. So I'm going to be ordering some parts. But for now, we don't have a pull start. Okay, so from that video clip, I think we can see that the starter gear is not moving up on the shaft. So I'm going to go ahead and pop this fuel tank off, and I'm going to cue the music. Once this is off, then you guys are going to be able to see the starter, and we're really going to be able to tell if the gear is moving up on the shaft or not. And I got the clamps loosened up that held the fuel tank on. They look like this, and they have an 8mm head on the bolt end, and this end just kind of holds itself. So you take the front one off this direction and move the other one backwards on the bracket like this, and then you can take the fuel tank and slide it this direction like this, where it just kind of hangs. Don't worry about it, it'll be totally fine. Now we can get at our starter, which looks like the gear does not spin on the shaft separately. So what I'm going to try to do to remedy this is I'm going to take a flat screwdriver. This is definitely a redneck weight, by the way. And we're going to try to smack the end of this and get the starter gear spinning, because I think it's just jammed on the shaft. So we'll see how that goes. Okay, amazingly, if you smack it this direction, you can get this to turn. Look at this, guys. Oh, no, it's jammed. Maybe. I don't know. We're going to try cranking it over right now, and we'll see what happens. So we got our park brake set, which on these, if you guys are new to these, if you guys are working on these, push the brake down and move this handle up, and it just jams the pedal from moving because it moves up in a slot. Anyways, good to know maybe if you're working on one of these. Let's try starting this. Okay, so we definitely have a reliable starter. So now I'm going to put the, well, reliable. This is a redneck reliable, let's be honest. It really kind of could be jammed up again, but we're going to take this fuel tank and stick it on here again, and then we can actually try running it for real. Put our fuel tank on. Let's see if this thing wants to start. We haven't tried starting this thing yet, so, I mean, it was trying to go earlier, so I think we might have siphoned any old gas out. Maybe we ran out of fuel? Yeah, guys, we're out of fuel. I don't know if you guys can see it, but that tank is bone dry, so it just ran itself out of fuel. Hopefully I didn't plug the carb up. Oops. Alright, well, shall we try again, guys? Okay, let's go for a drive. Okay, maybe we're not going for a drive. This is really rough on this thing. We are doing a whopping 7 kilometers an hour. That's not sounding good. Oh, now it sounds. Oh. Well guys, it died again. I'm thinking I'm gonna pop this air filter off, but I'm thinking this thing is flooding itself with gas and we gotta pop this carb off. Because if the needle and seat are not seating and it's over flooding, if it's flooding the carburetor, then filling this whole airbox system with gas, that could not end well. Okay, well, it's a good thing we actually do have a filter in it. Huh, maybe not. It is all loose. I don't know if it's supposed to be like that, but none of this seems broken. The fuel valve is on. Huh. Maybe we can play with the adjustment down here. Ooh, wet. That's not good. Right beside the exhaust. Well, I guess I'm going to push this thing back, and because we have a leaky carburetor, we're going to be off with the carburetor another time. I'm just going to shut the fuel off, and we can do the carb in a bit. We know that this thing can run and drive, but we don't know anything about that Yard Machines one, so we're going to try it. Anyways, I'm going to push this thing back a couple 100 meters or whatever that direction, and I guess I'll see you guys then. Alright guys, I have the Ford pushed back up here by the shop, and we have the air filter off still because I was checking to see if it was flooding in here. Now I'm actually thinking the opposite. What if the needle and seat is not letting in enough fuel, and if you let it sit for a couple minutes, then it'll fill the float bowl enough to have it run, because it runs pretty good for about a minute, and then it starts sputtering and just slowly but surely dies. So I'm gonna pull this carburetor off, which is really simple on these. Just one clamp here, I guess one Phillips screw right there, and then one screw there, one screw down there that you guys probably can't see, and this little bracket right here comes off, and then this whole unit can slide back and we can unhook the throttle linkage. But overall, this shouldn't take much more than like 10 minutes. Also, the exhaust is cold, so we don't have any worry if there's gasoline that gets spilled on it, because it will evaporate before we're running it again. Once the carburetor is off, we're going to be sticking it in my Vevor ultrasonic cleaner. So this unit is a 15 liter, and it holds water. That's the biggest thing. Has a little bit of ultrasonic cleaning solution too, just to speed the process up a little bit. You can run these with just water, and it has no problem. But yeah, these are about $250 on Amazon. Totally worth it. For anybody who's doing any amount of carburetors, this is better than those pails of whatever carb cleaner and whatever else you guys think you got that's better. These are the way to go. Guys, I got the carburetor off and in the vise. I've just cracked this loose. I haven't had the float bowl off yet, but we're gonna now take the float bowl off. Oh, it's not bad inside. It's not too bad. The float bowl seal, it's a little cracked right there, but we'll just have a quick look at this. Yeah, this shouldn't take too long to get clean in the Sonic. It really is actually pretty clean. But that's okay. I'm going to take this thing apart and run it through the Sonic cleaner. You guys are going to see it when it's done. Alright guys, we have our main body of our carburetor, our float underneath the float bowl, the main metering rod, and the jets that are underneath this main carburetor body. They'll still all get clean. Let's turn this thing on. The heat has been cranked up for about 20 minutes. Our water temperature is at 59 degrees Celsius, so plenty hot, right close to the 60 that we're set at. We're gonna turn our machine on and let's see what comes off of this carburetor. Alright guys, so now that we have the carburetor from this in the wash, I'm going to go have some lunch. And this afternoon we're going to be testing this guy out and seeing what we can find on it. We're also going to reassemble this and yeah, we'll see if that fixes anything on here, or if I got to try playing with some adjustments on this, because I was expecting that carburetor to be dirtier. But that's okay. I also think it's an Amazon carburetor because it doesn't have Briggs stamped on it. But so far, aside from the float bowl seal, I think we're able to salvage all the gaskets and everything from this thing, so that's good. Alright, so this Ford R12 riding mower runs and drives good. I'll show you guys some footage at the end of the video of the pair of these driving, as long as the other one drives. But definitely this one driving near the end of the video. And yeah, it runs and drives totally fine. We'll put the air filter back on it because I was just checking to see while it's running if it's getting completely flooded in here, which it isn't, which is good. And the carburetor does not leak anymore on it, which is good. So now we're going to move on to this Yard Machines unit. The battery is located in the back on this guy, so you can tilt the seat and see your battery cables. So we're going to hook to those. I know what this thing cranks over. It's definitely a Tecumseh, you can hear it. And we're going to pop the air cleaner off, spray some quick start fluid, and that'll tell us if it's fuel related or spark related why this thing does not run. Guys, we got our booster battery hooked up to our garden tractor. I'm just really curious. I have the air filter off so we can spray some quick start fluid in there. And I'm just curious, does it run? So let's just give her a go. It wasn't supposed to run. I got this one, they said it didn't run. All right, so we made it back. It's not running great. I think it's acting like the choke is stuck on. It's running really rich. We're in the snow, so it doesn't necessarily need an air filter immediately. Like even the snow blowers don't run air filters because they freeze up. So it's actually kind of better right now. We got our white smoke. What does No battery. Oh yeah, right full of fuel. That's why. So the carburetor is over fueling, it's flooding out. Choke does work separately. Throttle is working. Yeah, so I think the fact is that the carburetor is flooding too much fuel into there, which means the float height is just not set properly, which we can do in a bit. I still want to go out and drive the Ford with you guys so we can get some footage for that. We will be doing a part 2, I think, between these two, where we get this one running properly, and then we can do a drag race. Which one of these is faster, the Ford or this? If you guys are excited for that, please leave in the comments if you think there's some other tests, not off-roading, because we actually want to sell these in the spring without completely damaging them. But if there's any like actual other performance tests that are actually viable with a stock mower that you guys want to see us do, leave it in the comments. But if it's springtime, like April, then these are probably gone. So let's go on the Ford and see what happens. All right, guys, cold start again. This thing's been sitting for a while. All right, it's running good. Way better.